Star Citizen has recently expanded its roadmap, at least a little. It wasn't a massive update that we wanted, but it was at least a few breadcrumbs that should be the beginning of CIG giving us more updates over the next few weeks in the run-up to CitizenCon, the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, and Alpha 4.0, all later this year. So I wanted to talk about some of the bigger features that have turned up on the roadmap tracker that look to be coming in, for the most part, in 2025. But not all of them. Some of them are going to turn up this year in some limited form. I suppose I'm going to kind of be talking about what we might see in an Alpha 4.1, sort of stuff that might appear in 2025 Q1, Q2 of that year. I want to start by talking about the Hornet MK2s. So, we can see that CIG are working on more versions of the Hornet MK2 with the Tracker, the Ghost, and Super Hornet versions. So, obviously we have the Hornet F7A Mark II and F7C Mark II already. Not entirely replacing the Mark 1s. They still exist in the game. They still exist in some form. But at the moment, you can't buy them in-game or out of game. But you will be able to obtain the Mark 1 versions at some point, somehow, in-game by playing. So these new Mark 2 variants of the Hornets replacing the rest of the Mark 1s look to probably be coming during the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo maybe, but also marketing sense-wise, it could be next year with Fleet Week. We'll sort of have to wait and see. And they'll be depreciating the Hornet Mark 1s, the rest of them, when these turn up. They'll still exist in game, the Mark 1s, but they'll be harder to get. Now, the F7A Mark II, that's already in game. That might make these Hornet variants less popular because people have already got the one that they probably want the most. It's sort of my theory there. But the F7A was only obtainable as an upgrade for completing the Overdrive Initiative missions to get that Mark II version, sort of upgrading your F7C. So yeah, that might be something they run again in the future, so you can get the F7A kind of in that way. The Hornet Mark IIs are coming. I just wanted to talk about that. That was something very much highlighted in the roadmap tracker. There is also 7 to 8 unannounced ships and vehicles that I've talked about in a couple of other videos, which I'll link down below. There's loads of teasers and rumors and leaks and that sort of stuff if you're interested. I do want to point out as well something on the roadmap tracker was a feature or set of features, the Pyro system, planet and mission setup. That sort of section of features shows work going into 2025. And that's because that even with the release of Alpha 4.0, Pyro's not done. There's load more stuff to do. Ruin Station, tons of improvements. The plan is to release Alpha 4.0 with Pyro later this year, but there's still more work to do to Pyro after that. Now, I want to take a look at probably the biggest, most important feature on this list of work that CIG have now sort of announced that they're currently working on and actually showing some additional work to, and that's base building. So this feature is all work encompassing the ability for players to construct and maintain bases, including resource generation, commerce, and customization. This is quite important because it's a big feature. We know that they started working on it properly at the start of the year, though they had concepts and plans for it before that they showed off some of these at CitizenCon last year. Base building will have a big range of and scale of bases that you can build, from being able to do a lot of stuff by hand, but also different vehicle sizes and ship sizes will have the ability to build larger and larger sections or modules of a base. And then you go all the way up to the sort of Pioneer, which is for very big buildings. You'll need blueprints, you will need the materials, you will need the tools to build a building, but we don't 100% know how it's going to work because Cloud Imperium showed off the concepts of sort of, bam, here's a blueprint sort of structure on a planet, and oh, look, it's built. Something they have teased, which looks to be directly part of this, is Homesteads. Now, this is all in conjunction with persistence and customization of sort of player spaces. And Homesteads, they sort of teased on Twitter. They said, you'll find out more about these at CitizenCon, but it looks to be a structure that you can put down on a planet or somehow on a planet that you can then put storage in and then have effectively as a persistent customizable space for your gear, potentially your ships, that sort of stuff. We do not know the extent of Homesteads, but they appear to be the first real stage of player bases beyond, persistent hangars and the stuff that we have in 3.24. It's possible that some of this will turn up by the end of the year, but it's more likely that they'll be a big part of the next major patch after 4.0. Something that's relatively strongly connected to this is, like base building runs into 2025, that's crafting. We actually know a bit about crafting from Cloud Imperium talking about it. Well, we have the ability to craft already on the Vulture and the Reclaimer. We can use the salvage materials to build multi-tools and multi-tool attachments and boxes and stuff like that. Now, crafting is going to expand that out to craft various items using resources from throughout the persistent universe, but that might be using work tables, other crafting devices, fabricators, which is what Cloud Imperium have talked about sort of last year at CitizenCon. So fabricators will allow you, based on the size of the fabricator, you'll be able to build anything from ammunition and sort of consumables all the way up to ships. So this sort of includes equipment and components and all of that stuff. Kind of the idea for base building, maybe you'll have a big fabricator at one of your bases that then is a big supply base for you or your org, or maybe it's just effectively a shopping facility for people, then you can make some components that they need or whatever. But crafting has a range and scale, and base building, crafting, expect the smallest scale, the most limited version of that to be in our hands to start with. I actually kind of want to talk about a 4.0 feature quickly here as well, the Quasi-Grazer, the Space Cow. So these are supposed to be turning up in 4.0. These are large, warm-blooded herd animals that were originally discovered on the vast plains of Quasi on Terra. It's sort of like a standard seed animal on planets, basically where the UEE go. They use these for sort of meat and eggs and things like that. Now, you can expect to have these just sort of wandering about and being part of the terrain in 4.0. But beyond that, I believe that CIG are actually going to be having them as cargo, used for farming. You might have them as missions, from slaughterhouse delivery to herding to culling to cow tipping. Lots of different stuff. I just sort of wanted to mention that because they can use these animals in loads of different ways for a huge range of gameplay. Something else that I think's pretty big are updates coming to the vehicle radar and sort of scanning and FPS radar and scanning stuff. So Cloud Imperium, they are working on better ways of doing active and passive detection, how signatures work, sort of the distances of that, how you kind of ping when you're in FPS, how that gets mapped out. And this is all going to add to environmental interaction and exploration and the sort of whole exploration mechanics in general for just ships and FPS. A couple of features here kind of combined. They've got weapon misfire and wear that they've been working on, as well as item overheating. So item overheating, implementing the ability for items and weapons to overheat, causing damage and requiring the players to contend with malfunctions. So yeah, that's going to be added to the engineering gameplay, and then weapon misfire and wear, adding the potential for certain weapons to misfire or malfunction depending on various factors. Again, if you don't look after your weapons, if they take damage, if you're not maintaining them, that sort of stuff, then malfunctions can happen. Some actually very cool stuff linked to ships. Again, a lot of this may be coming in 4.0, are MFD reworks. So they're basically updating the cockpits, the ship cockpit experience, the MFDs, all of that sort of jazz. We've seen some of these inside Star Citizens, like little sneaks. But yeah, they're going to basically be rebuilding all the MFDs on ships with the new building block UI tech, making them kind of manufacturer specific, and then honing in on a ship if necessary to make it more appropriate for that ship as well. But they look great. Hopefully, a load of this is coming in 4.0. That's one of the things that I think may be pushed back a bit, or at least for a good portion of ships. We'll have to wait and see. The quantum travel experience. We know they've been working on that. That's something that hopefully will be coming out in the not too distant future. Again, I think by middle of next year it will be in game properly. So They're updating the quantum travel mechanic to move players in a more physically realistic way and improve the general quantum travel experience, adjusting how spooling and calibrating works, interdictions and entering exiting work. So we know that it's going to be a load more hands-on. And what do I mean by that? While you are accelerating up to quantum travel, so you start sort of calibrating and spooling, you've aligned to the direction you want to go, you then need to keep your ship within the quantum tunnel while you are accelerating. So you are hands-on, you are moving the mouse, it's sort of pulling you to one side. You've got to make sure you're going into that quantum tunnel, and then after you've fully accelerated, bam, you're safe, it's stable, and you can go hands-off. But I really like that because if you do it wrong, you'll basically be pulled out of quantum and you'll be potentially damaged or not be able to go to quantum for a little while, or maybe you've just taken some distortion damage. I quite like the idea of that. Interesting how that's going to work with escaping as well. But yeah, they obviously say that it's going to be adjusted for being pulled out of quantum with interdictions and that sort of stuff. But this all is going to be part of the what is there to do while I'm quantum traveling. Well, there might be interdictions, you might get pulled out, there might be anomalies, there might be distress signals, loads and loads of stuff. Something I did find quite interesting was that Squadron 42 polishing has been added to the roadmap tracker as well, and this is fine-tuning and refining all aspects of Squadron 42 gameplay experience. So this is again running into the 2025 January cutoff, so no Squadron 42 release this year, but I'm hoping that we see a release date announced at CitizenCon. We should be able to see roughly when the polish is going to be done after they update the roadmap more. So it's sort of being tracked now. It might be an indicator that it's nearly prime time for Squadron 42 Episode 1. At least that is my hope. Some other bits that CIG are working on that aren't necessarily showing on the progress tracker yet. They're bringing more ships up to gold standard. This is kind of part of the engineering gameplay, but as they obviously move towards a version 1 release and just, well, as they develop the game more and more ships are going to be brought up to that gold standard, although you can argue that gold standard keeps on changing with new patches because it's the most up-to-date standards for ships, but there is sort of like a current gold standard which they want to bring all ships up to. Master modes, combat for ships, all that sort of stuff, that's all being tweaked as well. You should see big improvements and tweaks to all of that sort of stuff, and then a huge amount of game balance with a load of that stuff. Squadron 42 features being brought to the persistent universe. That's also something that they are still doing, so you should see some more improvements with like FPS stuff, and as we sort of talked about, the FPS scanning and sort of exploration bits of interacting with environments and all that sort of jazz. So yeah, they're also having to get everything ready for server meshing, refactoring everything, and part of this is a big suite of sort of networking updates, and I'm hoping that that puts the game into a really good state. Though this is currently static server meshing, it is also big steps towards dynamic server meshing. So static server meshing goes, each of the star systems has been cut up into certain zones that seamlessly share data between them, and you sort of pass between those servers. They're all on the same shard still though, and even when you move to like a different star system, you're moving to a different server, the server that controls that part of the star system, but it's seamlessly sharing data, you're all on the same shard. With dynamic server meshing, they go, well actually, those individual sections of a star system can be spun up and down, but also a single room can become its own server. So they sort of nest these servers within each other that can then seamlessly share data, and dynamic server meshing should be pretty efficient and allow for potentially ridiculously huge amounts of players to all be part of the same shard. We know that they're working on the dynamic economy in the quanta system to a degree. That's sort of like tracking where NPCs are doing and all the sort of dynamic mission system stuff, but we haven't heard much about that. Hoping to see some of that at CitizenCon. I also suspect, and this is very much I reckon, that they are working towards Bounty Hunting version 2, and I would expect that to be a primary feature of Alpha 4.1. They've been working on it for a while. It's good for Pyro. It's good for lots of players that want to do that bounty hunting stuff, but also for lots of players that want to do PvP on both ends, because it allows for those sort of legal missions to go out and hunt NPCs and players, and makes that sort of gameplay appear for both sides of the lawful outlaw spectrum, because you're an outlaw, players going to be coming after you. I mean, yes, we have that very loosely now, but you're going to be able to stun people, put them in the cryopods, bring them back. It's the full sort of gameplay loop for bounty hunting is what I'm talking about with version 2, along with NPC tracking and where they were last seen, stuff like that, and going, I don't actually need to go and fight them in their ship. I might want to wait until they land at the station and rearm, repair, refuel or whatever, and go after them then. But anyway, boom! That's it for your sort of roadmap deeper dive today, and the load of stuff that I'm looking forward to that Cloud Imperium are working on. All of that stuff potentially making a 4.1 sort of release in 2025. But I'm really interested to know what you think. Are you excited by any of those features? What do you think we're going to get for the first sort of tier of base building and homesteads? What are they going to be showing off at CitizenCon? What about crafting? Is that something you're really, really interested in? Because obviously these sort of things also tie into the dynamic economy, and I could make whole videos on all of these individual things that I've talked about as well. And at some point, I probably will. Are you excited for the Hornet MK2s, the sort of other versions of that? Or is it something you're like, not really. I've got my F7C Mark II or my F7A Mark II already, or I'm not even interested in those as dogfighters. I've got an F8. What are your thoughts on those features? What are you hoping to see at CitizenCon this year? Whatever your thoughts or questions, please tell me in the comments below. Oh, before you go, Tobii eye trackers are on sale if you want some natively supported high precision eye and head tracking for Star Citizen and other games as well. They've got loads of cool features with a little ring. You can track where your eyes are looking. It's got some really cool stuff in there. Links down below if you would like a discount. Yeah, click the links down below. Click. You stand at the pearly gates. The winged being there weighs your sins against the weight of a feather. You are found wanting. Not a problem for nordvpn.com/BoredGamer though. Just change your location. Boom, you're in. Bypass your sin. Get nordvpn.com/BoredGamer. Probably not a tagline that Nord wants, bypass your sin, but that's what they're getting. Maybe they want one about its added security, privacy, or accessibility. Pah, everyone knows that. You get that at a touch of a button. Click these links below to get great deals on that VPN service. Every month we give away a ship, and this month of August is all about your favourite ships, because it's the ship showdown. My favourite ship is the Mercury Star Runner, and I don't want to give one of those away, but I will. It's a fantastic little multi-role, multi-crew ship. It's got a bit of cargo space, it's got room for a little vehicle, it's got a good amount of firepower, perfect little mission runner. In the future it's going to have data running, it's good for smuggling, it's got lots of secret little hidey holes. I absolutely love this ship. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during August. Also, I would love to know what your favourite ship is. If you would like to further support the channel, consider just commenting or liking, subscribing. That all helps. But also there's the join button under my videos. That goes a huge way to allow us to make daily content on Star Citizen. There's also Patreon, sharing the videos, direct donations. There's links to all of that down below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. You take care and have a great day.